This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, dear members, industry colleagues, and respected speakers. A hearty welcome to all of you to today's web seminar on automotive advances fueled by full fidelity simulations, organized by the German Engineering Federation VDMA with CADFIM India. We hope all of you and your family and colleagues are safe and doing well. I'm Janvi John, based out of the Mumbai office of VDMA, and I'll be taking you through the session. Before we continue, I'd like to remind all of you that for optimal viewing experience, kindly select the View Active Cameras option. Kindly turn off or mute your microphone, that is, it should be in the red mode. And please continue to post your questions in the chat box. So you can continue to post your questions during the entire session, and this will be taken up during the last leg of the webinar during the Q&A. As the COVID-19 crisis continues, the coronavirus has forced many businesses to cease or slow down operations. Automotive OEMs and players within the mobility industry have also been impacted. Over the long term, COVID-19 could have a lasting impact on mobility as it drives change in the macroeconomic environment, regulatory trends, technology, and consumer behaviors. The trend may vary by region, however, so responses and outcomes for mobility players will differ by location. As the pandemic continues, physical distancing will continue to have a significant impact on mobility behavior and preferences. Many people will switch to a transport mode that reduces the risk of infection, but the exact shifts will largely depend on the pre-COVID-19 habits. People who owned a private vehicle will now use it increasingly, while those who previously relied on public transport might now switch to a pre-owned vehicle. India's automobile industry, contributing 7.1% share in India's GDP and employment to 35 million people, is the fourth largest globally by volume and was forecasted before COVID to reach US $135 billion by 2020 and US $300 billion by 2026. India's roads are today teeming with festive cheer and traffic. Auto sales are surging, and so is the consumption of petrol and diesel. Indian car and bike makers reported their best monthly sales growth in about 2 years in September, with the dealers stocking popular models in anticipation of the robust sales through the Navratras and Diwali, which is about in a month's time. The data from the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, SIM, showed that the sales of passenger vehicles rose more than a quarter on year to 272,000 units. The car sales barometer of consumer confidence would have been even higher at 31%. Two-wheeler sales rose to 12% at 18,49,000 units, whereas the sales of three-wheelers declined at 72% to 18,640 units in September. SIM expects a good demand to continue in the festive season, and due to the government intervention, the auto loan interest rates are now below 8%. This is the lowest in a decade, and this has also encouraged the consumers to purchase new vehicles. Commercial vehicles and three-wheeler sales are still in a negative growth zone. The auto sector has prioritized now to fight against the coronavirus by increasing its production and sales to cater to the festive demand. But on the other hand, the important matters like a GST reduction on two-wheelers would be taken up later by the industry and the government. Despite India's comparatively low vehicle penetration, that is around 110 two-wheelers and 32 cars per thousand, combined with the young population, rapid improvements in road infrastructure, growth in rural demand, and possible introduction of entry-level passenger cars, the long-term perspective for the Indian automakers continue to remain attractive. Next slide. VDMA is and will always be committed to India. VDMA, the Mechanical Engineering Industry Association, was founded in November 1892 and is the most important voice for the mechanical engineering industry. VDMA represents around 3,300, mostly medium-sized companies, making it the largest industry association in Europe. It is members currently contributing to 78% as exports, which is equivalent to 232 billion euro production. Recognizing the very early significance of India as a future market for the member companies, India was one of the first overseas offices among the BRIC countries. VDMA stands to be the only German industrial association having well-established offices in India since several years, with their locations now in Noida, Kolkata, Mumbai, and Bangalore. Next slide. For today's web seminar, we will have a presentation from Dr. Madhukar Chatri, who is the CEO of CADFIM India, and Mr. Santosh Manapalli, who is a technology specialist at CADFIM, on the topic of automotive advances fueled by full fidelity simulations. My colleague, Mr. S. Manohar, who is the head of the Southern region for VDMA India, would do the moderation of the Q&A. Next slide. Dr. Madhukar Chatri has completed his PhD in mechanical engineering from the University of Kassel. Dr. Chatri is currently holding the CEO's position for CADFIM India and also the CADFIM Southeast Asia. In his 15+ years of global experience across Europe and India, he mainly focused on the space of simulation-based product development, cross-functional teams, and PLA management. Next slide. Mr. Santosh Manapalli is a technologist specializing in the domains of finite element method, computational fluid dynamics, and discrete element method. With his educational background and industrial experience directed from such themes on applied computational mechanics, he enjoys expertise in various industries through consulting and mentoring associations. With no further delay, I'd like to hand it over to you, Dr. Chatri, and to Mr. Manapalli. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, VDMA team and Gemly for this introduction. Santosh, you should be presenting the slides. Can you go to the slide mode, Santosh? Can you go to the first slide, Santosh? Okay, so thanks once again, VDMA team, for this introduction and also for the complete organization of this, and also giving a brief intro of where we are currently in terms of the pandemic and how the situation is slowly trying to improve. Hope everybody is safe. And today's session is about how we can improve the current situation by doing our bit. That is what CADFIM and ANSYS is doing in terms of helping our customers in this area. So we will talk about the topic automotive advances fueled by full fidelity modeling. We will focus on basically the simulation advantages in terms of the product development. Santosh, next slide. So before we go into the detailed technical presentation, this is a brief overview about CADFIM, CADFIM India, and CADFIM Group. CADFIM India is a part of a CADFIM Group. Basically, we are a leading provider for simulation-based engineering. Our expertise and know-how extends to almost every industry and the application in the world of simulation. We have been in this business since the last 35 years and have grown to more than 20+ companies with more than 500 engineers, mostly PhDs and postgraduates. We are located in more than 30+ different locations in the meantime, and also more than 17 countries. Okay. As part of the business approach and philosophy, we always believe in think global and act local in terms of utilizing the collective strengths of small and medium-sized companies. Okay, CADFIM India, as part of this CADFIM group, also is the most important and strategically important and largest channel partner of ANSYS, which is the world's largest developer of simulation technology. As a ANSYS Elite channel partner, we cater to all ANSYS simulation packages, catering to different variety of different applications, ranging from structural mechanics to fluid mechanics, or for that matter, electromagnetics and system simulation. Okay, all these variety of different applications of physics you will be seeing from the presentation in the coming slides from Santosh. Okay, and also most importantly, we believe in our slogan, which is simulation is more than software, because software alone cannot guarantee the success of simulation. So we at CADFIM Group believe in delivering as part of our solutions as system vendor, and in terms of engineering know-how, education provider, all in one package. This is exactly catering to our customer needs, and also in our slogan, which is we believe in every day of our job, which is simulation is more than software. Okay, that is a brief intro about CADFEM and CADFEM group companies. Santosh, next slide. Okay, now before we really see the advantages of simulation, right? As you can see on this very nicely summarized slide, where and how we see the significance of simulation in product development. Okay, so basically it helps all the customers in top line growth and bottom line savings. Currently, simulation is being used in the entire product lifecycle management of any product or any industry you take. Okay, be it in the early design or ideation phase, where engineers try to check their design ideas in terms of reduce in the design phase, where you really check for variety of different variants, for example. Okay, and in terms of manufacturing, where people in the manufacturing industry try to reduce the weight of any part, for example, using topology optimization, or for that matter, the recent newer technologies like additive manufacturing. And also not to forget where Santosh will focus about is the current way of using simulation rightly in live, in terms of in product and in operations, which we call as predictive maintenance or digital twin of any product development. So simulation is used in the entire product lifecycle management these days. So that is what we call as pervasive simulation. So all these ideas you see here in terms of design and analysis, manufacturing, operation, and the entire application of this whole pervasive simulation is what you will see in the coming slides from Santosh. Okay, apply this idea applied to automotive industry. And on the right side, I mean, how the simulation is impacting, right? This is in terms of the current complexities where we are facing. For example, chips are getting more and more complex. Electronics are everywhere. Products are getting more increasingly complex. How different complex materials like composite materials, where you will also see in the coming slides, are being used. Okay, so by using all these, I mean, and because of this, the complexity, the increased quality, and at the same time, basically reduced cycle time and reduced risks. Okay, all this is possible because of simulation. Okay, and if you are using a simulation in all these areas, that is what, as an example, you will see in the coming slides, companies are able to grow their top line as well as have their bottom line savings. So having said that, how this main slide is applicable to the current automotive industry is what you will see from the next presenter. Santosh, over to you from here on.
Yes, thanks. Thank you very much for the introduction, Madhukar. So yeah, and thank you all for being here, joined with us today for this particular webinar on advances of automotive development through full fidelity simulations. Of course, that's been a good introduction, of course. Yeah, so we can start now into the core topic. But before we, of course, rush into the core topic of how exactly simulations or the modeling approaches that we are going to demonstrate today would indeed be helpful in designing or improving an entire automobile, we are trying to open this up with a very good note of how environmental concern and the increased use of simulations can go really together. I mean, how could we resolve the environmental concerns or make it a better world to live in? So there are certain examples that you can see, of course, here. Well, you can see that better lighting systems can be designed using optical simulations. That way you can keep the radiation levels low, again impacting the environment in a better way. Of course, you can kind of do structural simulations. This is some airplane part or a window part of an airplane that you can see here, basically. Well, here actually. So you can see that these simulations can help to reduce even the material that is being used to manufacture any part in a structural sense. That way, well, less material used or less plastic used or any not too easily degrading material being used lesser, that always adds to environmental safety or environmental sustainability. Well, the simulations are even used in things as simple as our drinking water bottles, of course. So the strength of these water bottles is properly simulated, and a structure of those water bottles is kind of arrived at by using simulations in such a way that you don't have to spend a lot of plastic upon them, but they still seem to be doing good in terms of the way they have to hold the water. And while transportation, they have to be structurally stiffer, better integrated, so on. So structural integrity is assured for such utilities or appliances as simple as water bottles, helping you to manufacture a very good quality water bottle, at the same time reducing the percentage of plastic material that is getting otherwise used. Well, there are good showers that are getting designed, which are actually helping a lot to save a lot of water indeed. So there are simulations which are using heat transfer and phase change concepts from the basic physics and designing really good showers, basically, which give a very good enthralling experience and a proper clean experience for a shower, at the same time reducing the amount of water. The water is kind of hitting the body of a person with the required force, pressure, and the kind of temperature that is needed. So all these are taken pretty well cared of by using simulations. So that way we reduce the usage of water, helping the environment a lot. Of course, again, another example that you can see where electromagnetic simulations are very well designed and used to reduce the radiation that is coming up from these telephonic towers and so on. Yeah, so these are all antenna based dynamics. We'll see some part of these being spoken about in the subsequent slides, of course. Yeah, well, companies like BMW are also sloganing with and moving with this kind of slogans that the board salaries are tied up with the climate change targets. So the well, the job of the board members in any influential company is, of course, to just come up with better ideas to contribute to financial savings, of course, but companies like these are actually pledging upon policies which will indeed allow them to take both financial benefits and the benefits concerning environmental sustainability in a tandem. Okay, now moving on to our, of course, main topic. If you look at an automobile anytime, well, you will see that there are so many components which require great due diligence to be designed very well, designed efficient and safe, elegant, of course. We'll come to the phase of what exactly today's automobiles are indeed looking like and what are the key requirements in the automobiles of today, of course. But before launching into that a core topic, you can see that there are so many parts of an automobile that really require a lot of attention, a lot of energy to be put in or effort to be put in to be manufactured in a better way. It could be a whole powertrain, well, it could be the infotainment systems as well, actually. It could be the antennas that are giving you everything, the electric machines, the chassis itself, the body and the chassis itself, and there are fans or other equipment which are indeed generating and moving air for better thermal comfort of anybody who is sitting as a passenger within the car. Of course, the brakes and steering systems to be properly integrated into the whole automobile and structurally stiff and structurally strong, such that they don't get fumbled or disabled at a point of time where they have to be really useful in perhaps preventing a very big accident, well, taking care of the safety that way. Well, electronics and power electronics, well, we do have all these LEDs or other type of systems that are getting used in the smart cars as of today, maybe a rooftop opening system or so on, which has to be operated obviously by electronics, power electronics, etc. Well, not only this, moving further, we are in the age of witnessing the success of advanced driver assistance systems, ADAS, or autonomous driving systems, of course. So they need extra care, obviously. And the battery systems that come with the electric vehicles, they do need a lot of compact packaging so that they don't really get affected by the external noises or the external disturbances as a car is moving in the road. Well, electrical machines, which is the most important part, electric motor, which is the heart of an electric car. We'll see how these different components will experience simulations, of course, in the subsequent slides. But of course, well, while we are actually looking at these different components, obviously we are also able to see that these experience different physics. Basically, it could be fluid dynamics if it comes to the streamlining of the exterior of a car. Well, in the IC engine, another example for fluid dynamics, where, well, fluid is, of course, very novice definition. It could be a liquid or a gas, of course. So that way, if you are witnessing combustion that is occurring within an IC engine, it is about a lot of thermodynamics and a lot of fluid mechanics, of course. So another example there. So all these telematics, human machine interfaces, infotainment, etc., they do need high frequency electromagnetics. And well, you see that the electric vehicle powertrain, it needs low frequency electromagnetics. Especially, I'm talking about the electric motor. In this case, it is an electromechanical device, appliance, which is operating at lower frequencies of electromagnetics, of course. Well, vehicle durability and structural integrity, of course, the dummies, just those which look like human bodies, are being tested. That is a standard testing procedure, which I think most of you are already aware about. In the point of durability, I mean, when you're talking about occupant safety, crashworthiness, durability, of course, there are already very well-framed standards which are allowing the automotive makers or manufacturers to already design and test these automobiles on a track, on a tested track, in live physically, but it's still costing them a lot of material wastage. So why don't we switch on to simulations and use simulations to get things going better, really? And well, lighting systems, of course, optics, ray optics is a branch of physics which is really helping how light can travel from a headlight or a rear light. And in these days, this is the era of intelligent lighting systems, how a light can automatically bend when a car is actually moving over a maneuver kind of road. Yeah, that will be seen as well in the subsequent slides, things like that, of course. Well, there are a lot of mechanisms that we can see, definitely a gearbox mechanism, even the opening up of a door, it's a door latching mechanism. Well, that requires multi-body dynamics, different parts are joined together, motion is transmitted upstream and maybe downstream sometimes, of course. So motion is transmitted, forces are being used, energy is being spent over there, and under the action of all that going in tandem, what would a sensitive part experience as a stress or as a deformation? Of course, that's again a concern which can be simulated, definitely. On top of all these, current automobiles are running with intelligence, with artificial intelligence or whatever, well, using definitely properly coded embedded software. So embedded software is looking at a lot of things in the present era's automobiles. Well, that would require how you synthesize the code, how neatly you synthesize the code, basically. And after that, how would you assure for certain safety standard requirements, because that code is a master taking care of a lot of subjects within the car. It could be a power steering, it could be in the advanced driver assistance systems, a particular sensor which has to supply a sort of information so that automatically in an event the car is going to stop. If the car does not stop in such event, well, it's a big problem actually. So all this is monitored and maintained basically by this particular embedded software that sits within the automobile. So you have to care about that synthesis of that code and how it's very neat, away from the bugs, etc. So that is again coming into the play of simulations, of course. We'll see that. Okay, coming to the whole theme of this presentation, or the way it is kind of organized, I would say that we have picked up the theme of actually organizing it with respect to different phases of industrial revolution. So we are talking industry 4.0 as of today, but let's go back and revisit what's industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and then what's industry 4.0 for us, of course. Yeah, so if we revisit these things, industry 1.0 just started with the mechanization. Well, there were steam engines at that point of time, or of course the kind of certain mechanisms that you are in a funny sense looking at here. Well, it is a Ruby Goldsberg machine basically. Well, the whole thing actually. So a clock rings at a particular time, a Pelton wheel rotates. Some weights are added by a fallen cup into some bucket, and it activates a scissor, it cuts a thread, a shoe, and the shoe is actually stumbling upon a stapler, which is finally pinning up a paper. Well, this is a kind of contraption mechanism. You could find it in any cartoons, and well, even some Charlie Chaplin movies. For a fact. So, well, mechanization is what characterized that way the industry 1.0. They didn't have electrical power back then. Well, it's all about the focus upon how good a mechanism is. Well, the mechanism in some sense is being also driven by steam engines, as I said, mostly in that case. Well, coming to industry 2.0, well, we foray into industry 2.0, the time of electrification. Well, you see a sort of semi-dismantled electric motor with its copper windings on the screen, of course, as a symbol of denoting the industry 2.0. Coming to industry 3.0, of course, it is about electronics. We had semiconductors, the diodes, the transistors, the microcontrollers that are responsible for the control of a lot of functions as of today. That is industry 3.0 for us. Well, we then stepped into industry 4.0, which is the internet of things. The internet is getting linked up with these sort of semiconductors, etc., to give us greater control. So now we proceed to actually highlight what piece of technology the automobiles of today are able to absorb and operate from each segments or phases of this whole industrial revolution. So going on that way, our first topic would be multi-body dynamics for motion transmission. We are talking industry 1.0 right now, mechanization. Our focus is, as I said, in industry 1.0 helm or realm. Well, our focus is all about mechanization or the motion transmission, how good a mechanism is, what sort of a force is being used to drive a particular mechanism, how many contact definitions can be embedded within a design and operation of a contact mechanism. Well, you see that we can actually use both the flexible bodies and also rigid bodies which come up with the construction of a mechanism. You will see it better in the subsequent slides. Of course, there are a lot of interconnected bodies when it comes to mechanization or the design of a mechanism. Caring for motion transformation, of course, or motion transmission. What you see on the screen is a sort of door latching mechanism, opening up the door. So it's got a lot of parts. I mean, the housing, the bumper, pawl, spring, striker, etc. So for example, the claw here, the blue part, it could experience any sort of stresses, or the seal which you see, the striker, of course, I think the seal which you see here is an elastomer. It can also experience any sort of stresses or deformations while the mechanism is in a complete operation of transmitting the forces and so on, basically. So we care for that. We use dynamic contacts, of course, and we try to see what sort of stresses appear upon these parts. Well, we can do it rigid body analysis initially to just check how the motion is getting transmitted. After having done with that, you can switch over any part as a flexible body, which is now able to deform itself and give you a picture actually about what sort of stresses it would, or what sort of deformations it would incur because of being a part or a participant within this particular mechanism. So this is multi-body dynamics. Of course, another example, this is a automotive synchronizer. Basically, it's moving certain arms that you can see here through the rotation of these gears. So, well, we are trying to actually set it up that way and trying to set up different types of contacts between the different gears and a rotational motion, of course, and then see what sort of stresses, what sort of deformations would befall upon the gear teeth would there be any catastrophic failure by any chance of the mechanism? Would the gears somehow lose any contact? What sort of synchronization is achieved or disturbed? So that is what you can actually look at all through the operation of this automotive synchronizer using simulations. All this is actually virtually done. You're not really investing into any real-time testing for the note, for the record. Yeah, and that saves a lot of cost, that saves a lot of time as well. So prototyping cost and time taken, these are the usual benefits, of course, of simulations. A very well valid representation of why simulation has to be used. So that's industry 1.0 largely. Yeah. Well, what we also see here is a IC engine's operation here. Well, IC engine has to drive any mechanism, of course. If you're not talking about electrical power, we are not yet there. We did not yet move into the piece of technology offered by Industry 2.0, which is going to be our next segment, of course. But, well, sticking to this Industry 1.0 mechanization, we have to talk about how the combustion can be simulated within an IC engine. Not only a combustion, as you can see, this particular video is getting very well simulated there. If you really take a closer look at the kind of dynamics that you are already able to see on the screen due to the IC engine or within a IC engine, you see that the volume is not a constant, obviously, because there is a power stroke, there is a expansion stroke, different strokes of the flywheel operation, as you know it in the standard operation of a IC engine. You see that there is a fuel injection that is coming in, and air and fuel are mixing up. The mixing dynamics, the turbulence, and the way the particles of the fuel are actually coming inside, all these are being analyzed, and these colors that you see here are actually a complete indication of physical quantities determined from simulations, such as it could be the velocities, it could be the kind of equivalence ratios, it could be the kind of turbulence that you are witnessing over there for different crank angles. The crank angle is also changing. So, okay, just a small clarification that I would require. I hope the screen is actually being seen. Can someone actually?
Yes, Santosh. Your screen is visible and the animations are also played. Your
Okay.
pointer is also seen. All good.
Okay, yeah, great, because I received some notification on that. Okay, that's fine. So basically what you can observe here is, like I said, different physical quantities. It could be velocity, it could be the equivalence ratio, it could be, well, also the pressures that are accompanied or housed within this IC engine. So the IC engine itself is indeed a gamut of physics that are being hosted within it, and successfully these effects, all of them can be simulated. Not only combustion, if you turn your attention again to all the other images that are also present on this particular screen, you can see how this combustion generates a lot of heat. That heat can affect the structure or the housing or some other sensitive parts of metal or other material that are made up and embedded within the construction of this IC engine, and how they deform because of thermal gradients. If there is a water jacket, how would the fluid be boiling or flowing? Sometimes phase change is required. Well, phase change contributes to latent heat that can take away some unwanted heat. So that's a different mechanism, of course. Through phase change, we can simulate it. Absolute boiling can be simulated. Condensation can be simulated. Everything regarding the phase change, it's possible to simulate them. Well, finally, a structural stability of the IC engine. Well, forget about combustion for a while, but the basic structural integrity or stability of IC engine, that can be definitely simulated as well using the structural physics. Well, another one, which is also a component of any powertrain, basically. So when you actually hear the name powertrain, it needs to be taken in a generic sense. When a powertrain term is uttered, it should not be conceived limiting its application only into an electric vehicle. When a powertrain is anything about certain parts or the certain operational devices joined together for a power transmission. That's it. So if you look at it in such generic way, there is a powertrain as well in conventional engines, not alone electric vehicles. Of course, conventional vehicles would have a IC engine, would have a gear transmission system like that. Well, this gear transmission system is again contained upon lubrication, of course. So this lubricant is a fluid which is flowing and trying to ensure that the gears in the gear train would not experience serious adverse conditions of friction. If they experience them, there would be a fatigue failure or a catastrophic failure, much pronounced actually if it is not taken very well cared about. So we do have to assure that there is a proper supply of lubrication fluid, and then that fluid along with its air entrainment, how would it really behave within a gear train. So you are actually talking about a multi-phase simulation here. Lubricant, it's in the liquid state, fine, but well, there is air entrainment as well. Its functionality has to be, if it has to resemble reality when you're simulating it, you definitely have to take into account the air entrainment. Not only that, if it is getting heated due to friction or other forms of heat that are sometimes coming in contact with it due to the exhaust gases leaving or the engine itself, there is a chance that the lubricant itself can evaporate. So all these actually are supposed to be really cared about. Only then the film formation that is coming from the circulation of lubricant onto the gear teeth, that would be more accurate, and that's what you need, because capturing that with accuracy in simulations will assure you to properly study the reduction of friction imparted as an advantage by the existence of that lubricant. So if you have to actually reach out to that place, you do have to be more diligent and careful in terms of doing your simulations. Use a proper multi-phase model and care for the air entrainment. Have a very well comprehensively designed simulation set, which can also, in the event of boiling or some other evaporation of lubricant, care better. Well, this is a testimonial from one of the managers at Toyota. The team reduced the weight of the drive unit while improving its cooling capacity. Well, it is perfectly aligned with the vision of simulations that Toyota has been using over the years. Another component, of course, which also has a very good role to play in the powertrain of a normal IC engine, that would be a turbocharger. It has got different components. Again, it could be a stress simulation like this. Even crack predictions through structural analysis are possible. Companies like BorgWarner and Voith are already doing simulations on these type of components. It's a global realization that companies like these are using it. Well, in terms of fluid dynamics or structural mechanics, even topology optimization and proper change, proper design of geometries like this, it is really possible. You can find stress intensive areas or areas with singularities of high pressure or high velocities, some sort of separation of the flow which will reduce the efficiency. Things like these are all very well possible to simulate, and simulating such scenarios is really important because it's perhaps better to you test it all in a virtual sense than to subject a real prototype to all these tests where there is a building cost of the prototype involved, and at the same time maybe not all physical conditions can be brought into play or made to influence the particular mechanism or the device that you are talking about. While in simulations, in a virtual sense, it is possible to subject the system to any sort of questionable conditions. All these what if questions would matter, and you can definitely derive a very good benefit in terms of appropriate answers to those what if questions if you channel your simulations very well. Yeah. Now, as we are moving into industry 2.0, talking about electrification, I would again say that we have to have our vision and look upon the powertrain. Well, if I talk about the powertrain in these components, again, powering the electric vehicles, it could be any type of electric vehicle. I'll come to that part later, of course. Well, in a simple sense, when I talk about electric vehicles, I say that the energy storage and the supply unit, that is the battery unit, which is very important. A battery in itself hosts a plethora of chemistry and a lot of multi-scale complexities. So all these are supposed to be cared very well in simulations. We do have empirical and semi-empirically based models, of course, and besides these empirical and semi-empirical models to really care for a battery, there is also this particular chemistry model wherein it allows you to in fact go to a stage where you can indeed determine a very good appropriate sizing of the particles that make up the porous structure of the electrodes, and how much volume of electrolyte is that which you need within the operational realm of a particular battery. Putting this chemistry complexities aside, most of the electric vehicle manufacturers in the market today and most of the startups as well today are basically focusing upon designing a better packaging for these batteries so that thermal management of the batteries is actually assured, because they need to have a lot of durability working with these type of batteries. It could be active cooling or a passive cooling provided with the materials like phase change materials and so on in the novelties of today. But yes, of course, that is all taken care of or cared about well. There are standard tests that can supply the inputs that are required for the empirical models that are being used in the simulations to simulate the scenario for a battery pack in terms of assessing its thermal solutions efficiency. So such one of the tests is of course hybrid pulse power characterization test. It's a very standard test which is actually performed even by the vendors who manufacture the cells. It could be LG Chemicals, A123, etc. Any sort of these companies, they are already doing this hybrid pulse power characterization test. And if you by any chance as somebody who is focusing only upon the designing of electric vehicles, or as a startup perhaps only upon the designing of better thermal packaging solutions for the batteries, you can actually just contact a particular vendor and then benefit from this kind of data, the HPPC or the hybrid pulse power characterization data. It is given usually by the vendors basically, and the other people in the whole value chain or supply chain, just like I mentioned, can benefit from simulations by using that type of data basically. Yeah. Well, there are also advanced simulations that you can talk about in the case of batteries, like thermal abuse, where a vehicle is moving so fast and it gets hit upon by an obstacle or faces an accident, wherein well it could actually then trigger a thermal reaction, a thermal runaway chain reaction over there, leading to failure of the battery and enormous heat generation. Such events which are done physically or tested physically by a nail penetration test, those can be simulated as well. Not only these 3D models that we are talking about here, but it is possible to simulate different variants of the battery packaging or the battery chemistry itself. And by simulating so many variants, we'll finally come up with an intelligence model, and that model is a reduced order model which is going to be there with you and which will give you answers as quick as you enter the inputs, almost like you are just operating with an Excel sheet, for example. So that's a very good advantage of simulations, again, that you well perform certain 3D simulations, but then you get very useful data. Basically that data, if you use it, you can construct a reduced order model. So right now with the reduced order model, it's got a lot of intelligence of data crunching and data algorithms over there, which becomes so efficient, just like an Excel sheet, that if you open it, you enter certain input parameters, you want to see certain outputs for that, well, you can instantaneously see such outputs and they will all be still correct. So that is the beauty or the importance of reduced order models. And for battery management, such construction of reduced order models becomes really pivotal and prominent, of course. So what we are again looking here is a electric motor, of course. An electric motor in itself as an electromechanical device or an appliance is completely multi-physics based. Well, you have this electromagnetics. You start, for example, with the electromagnetics simulation. Let us talk about an induction motor. You will provide the information on the windings inside the motor and the input charge or the current, basically. Well, depending upon whether it's a DC or has got a AC inverter, it would convert. It would finally use a AC current, basically, and it will provide for the rotation of the shaft. So that is electromagnetics. You will get RPMs or other type of thermal losses through the electromagnetic simulation, because once you provide these electrical parameters, imagine if it is an induction motor, not a permanent motor, maybe it is an electric motor, then due to the variation in the AC field, magnetism is produced, and that is how fundamentally the switch of the poles happens north to south, and that is how it fundamentally rotates the shaft inside, with the physics all of that taken into the place. So how exactly are these effects accounted for in simulation? It's totally based upon the background solution of Maxwell equations. Well, in another case, if you're not talking about an induction motor, if you're talking about a permanent magnet motor, of course, there you have to go a little bit ahead. You have to, along with the input current and also the winding information and the electric properties of those windings and other materials, you may also have to provide in that case as input the permeability and the magnetism properties of the permanent magnet over there. Well, that again gets you to solve the Maxwell equations in the background, and the required action is reported. You will see thermal losses. Of course, you will see some eddy current circulation here and there. And you will see both the electric field density, magnetic field density, and the RPMs as well are an output in this case. Well, these thermal losses are then communicated onto a fluid dynamics solver, a CFD, computational fluid dynamics solver, which will aid for any type of cooling basically, and then provide you the updated temperature map. So that is again put into an electromagnetic solver because the resistance, conductivity, permeability, etc. all these properties are a function of temperature. So according to the temperature, they are again changed, and a new value of thermal loss map is again produced. It goes to fluid dynamics. So until a stabilization or equilibrium is reached, there is a continuous seamless exchange of information in the case of a motor through a two-way coupling interface between an electromagnetic solver and a fluid dynamics solver. So that way, the fluid dynamics solver, once it comes out of this loop attaining equilibrium, will have the right set of informations regarding the thermal temperatures that are deposited upon different structures. Its housing, its fins are also upon the winding. And in this particular case, we have taken, as shown in the image, a cooling channel. So how the structural deformations or how the stresses of the cooling channel would indeed look like as it is getting very much subjected to all these temperatures. So finally, that way it is a two-way information transfer between electromagnetic solver and the fluid dynamics solver, but it is a one-way information transfer between the fluid dynamics and the structural mechanics solver. So that way, summing it up, yes, of course, the e-motor development is a true multi-physics sapphire. Okay, so that's what this slide really briefs about: a seamless interface which is exchanging information between the different solvers in a very perfectly seamless sense. So there is a transfer of electromagnetic losses from this electromagnetic solver onto a fluid dynamics solver. It will transfer temperature gradient. That is one loop that you are seeing here. There can be other loop where you can parallelly carry on with another structural solver for harmonic response analysis. Harmonic response analysis in a structural solver can transfer surface velocities, and then you can even do acoustics analysis. How is the noise that is getting generated by a particular motor? Can you add any other dampening materials? If so, in what configuration and in what design do you have to add them to regulate the noise from the acoustics? So that can be seen as well. So that way, if you look at just the heart of the electric power train, which is nothing but a motor, it's indeed such a multi-physics sapphire to develop it. And all these can be seamlessly integrated and adapted in simulations to run about. Well, coming to just another topic that I kind of wanted to make my mention upon, these hybrid electric vehicles basically come in such a configuration, especially the mild hybrids. They really come in such a configuration that the electric engine and some of the IC engine components, they have to probably be housed in the same environment. So the IC engine is generating a lot of heat, and all that heat befalls upon the electronic components, which may face that kind of durability diminishing or some sort of other damage thermally. So when you travel with a car like that or a vehicle like that for a long time, and you park it at a place, then you switch off your system completely, then your active cooling is ceased. You don't have any more of your fans basically rotating and circulating the air. In that case, many companies like BASF or 3M, etc., which are actually very good in terms of material management, they have resorted to develop really advanced materials for passive cooling. So one such example, well, this simulation is just one done with the wax material. It is a phase changing material, but if it is changing the phase due to such phase change and the operation of latent heat, it is able to store more heat and that way provide a cooling effect, just like active cooling. When your engine is off, of course, no fans rotate, and you have to really rely upon these techniques to let this basically happen. Well, you will give solidus temperature and liquidus temperature and some viscosity, thermal conductivity, these type of main thermal properties, including solidus and liquidus temperatures for phase change regulation, and the solver will be able to give you in a particular heat transfer scenario, how is this material actually behaving? How is it really able to regulate the heat transfer that should not be adversely affecting some neighborhood components, which are to be under the protection of this phase change material itself. So such effects can be simulated as well. Yeah. Well, basically, when you turn a IC engine conventional vehicle into a electric vehicle, what happens is it is basically helping the environment, reducing the spending upon the fuel, that way maybe helping you in an economical sense as well. But what also happens is that all this assembly of electric components is basically increasing the weight of a electric vehicle. Therefore, you have to be more diligent and careful in terms of assessing how it is structurally good. Not only carrying all that weight components, not only that, you can also see certain things like this battery pack, for example, in this case, which is actually an impact simulation. So that impact is received, like you see, by the battery here, and then it leads to a thermal runaway, which can be simulated as well. So this structural integrity issue actually comes up only if you are coming to this crashworthiness or occupant safety thing. So you do have these unstable modes that are occurring on a brake disc. It can affect basically the caliper like components. It will kind of deform them. So all these structural aspects also have to be taken care of. Okay, coming to aeroacoustics, this is also important because when you come to the case of an electric vehicle, it does not have an engine. So in the case of well, conventional vehicles, there is an engine. Engine makes certain noise, and that will depress or suppress other forms of noises. But now we don't have an engine, so the noise is already low. But then there are other cases or other places from which you get the noise. So that way, aeroacoustics focus upon them is supposed to be important. It could be just a roof, some gap within the door as well. Yeah, that you can just see here. One, yeah. So a door gap that you can see here, even that can lead to speedy ejection of the air, and that way aeroacoustics. Aeroacoustics is when the air is speeding up, basically that air turbulence or mixing itself creates a noise. So how can we simulate it? If you see this rain gutter thing, well, you see very, very micro small patterns of the air that is flowing over there. This requires a very well refined mesh, and it could be complicated in the nature as well. But we do have platforms or softwares or simulation tools which can provide for very good resolution of all these details, and hence a very good capturing of acoustic noise basically. So it's not only that, a lot can be simulated as well. It can be traction motor that we already saw, battery that we already saw, but electric steering, its structural dynamics, or the way it is reacting to any electromagnetics signals, power electronics, chargers, fuel cells, all these can be simulated, but maybe in the ambit of time or the time constraint within this session, we may not be able to go in detail about all these parts, but as you can already see it, you are pretty much in a position to simulate all of them indeed. Yeah. So electric pump, electromagnetic suspensions, actuators, sensors, all these can be very perfectly, definitely simulated. Yes, that should be not a problem. Yeah. Coming to the next realm of industry revolution, it is industry 3.0, electronics. You're talking about PCBs, which have got a lot of microcontrollers mounted upon them. Those are the ones which get the job done actually. So in the era of industry 3.0, we have to care about the thermal management and structural management of or shocks of these PCBs, and that can be done. I think you can correlate, as I explained, the kind of coupling that can happen between fluid dynamics and structural dynamics solvers and so on in the case of an electric motor just previously. It's the same sort of coupling that is, kind of coming up here as well. Well, you can actually assess all the signal integrity issues, the jitter and other issues of signal integrity. Take a power map it onto a fluid dynamics solver. In the case of a PCB, get a temperature as a result. Again, it's kind of a two-way coupling because resistances change and conductivities change, permeabilities, all these change basically just as functions of temperature. So it's not a one-way coupling, it's a two-way exchange of simulation, simultaneous exchange till a equilibrium sort of thing is reached. So you're working upon electromagnetic interference or compatibility issues of the PCBs as well. So PCB itself is a circuit where every trace can indeed be an unwanted antenna causing a lot of noise disturbance. If you look at the channel eye diagram here, you're taking two signals and plotting them upon together, and you are trying to see how good this eye shape opening is. If it is good, you don't have much noise over there. You're comparing a mutual sense of compatibility between two different signals and seeing signal integrity in a mutual sense that way. So this is a time domain plot, of course, and what you see beside that is a far field radiation, which happens to be a Fourier transform of that in a frequency domain, of course. So you see basically the noise and comparison between different signals in a PCB like that. All these hotspots are sort of electric field density that you are looking at here. Okay. Coming up to, of course, automotive lighting. We of course have to also see that it is a lot of multi-physics affair indeed. So it involves lighting in an optical ray optics sense. It has got a lot of multi-phase senses. Of course, it's a forced vibration or forced natural convection, condensation, etc. All these can be very well simulated. So a automotive lighting system itself involves a lot of physics like this. Well, you can simulate a lot of details about exterior lighting, definitely how you see the road and how the lights actually show you the way. And well, you also have illumination upon different parts of your interiors. Those can be seen as well. All these can be seen with realistic transmission and scattering properties. So you will look at some component in simulation exactly the way you look at in reality. Yeah, well, much more than that, you can also get into this electromagnetic simulations, advanced driving assistance systems. They have antennas, and how these different antennas collide and interfere with each other, how the signals actually get transmitted, and well, different types of sensors. This is an array of antennas, of course. It will help you in terms of parking yourself in a proper way, of course, in the vehicle, so on. These can be analyzed through simulations. In fact, we can get all the city maps, and when you are driving a vehicle across in a city, you can really see how the signals are helping you. So this is a digital twin actually for a battery. So you can record a lot of data, for example, and they are monitored at different global locations. As somebody is driving a car, and there is a digital twin which is helping you to analyze if there is anything wrong going on there. So it is a real artificial intelligence that is enabled by simulations. So this is again a paint shop which is very well automated these days. The robotics are working upon it. Sensory, multi-sensory and haptic control devices are also working upon this, but this is a multi-phase simulation again, a lot of bath of paint and how it is getting itself distributed or deposited upon the different parts. Well, when you are moving with a car, advanced driver assistance systems, how it can immediately bend its lights according to a maneuver in the way that is again controlled by sensors can be simulated as well. Well, composites as well are playing a crucial role basically, and the whole manufacturing process of composites can be very well simulated here. Composites sum up to a lot of anisotropy, but then all that anisotropy can be very well simulated in these simulations. Well, the draping, solid extrusion, degradation simulations, everything can be very well simulated. Well, this 90 Labs is a very good startup as of today, advanced one, using a lot of 3D printing techniques. So we couldn't have imagined 3D printing in the context of composites, but yes, it is actually doing very well. Yeah. This is just about a coming up webinar that we would deliver, of course, how graphene is very useful and how organic LEDs can help the development of automobiles. Coming to the embedded core generation and certification and verification, of course, there are intelligent tools that can reduce your job by 50% compared to the way you see it when you are using just Excel and MATLAB, etc. Well, you do have autonomous driver assistance systems, they require functional safety, a lot of it indeed. There is this SOTIF as well, that is better required in terms of hazard analysis. In this case, basically it is about if a sensor, for example, you are driving on a road and a sensor looks at a mirage and it feels that it is a person standing and immediately applies a brake. That's not good, right? It's a sudden brake application for no reason. So such faulty scenarios have to be accounted for in a documentation already. So that is again a job of a software tidiness, in fact. Yeah. So this is a system simulation. Of course, it can give you quicker results, but of course you have to do 3D simulations sometimes first, understand and basically find out how each component can work. As you can see, how a vehicle dynamics module can work here, how a flywheel can operate here, how a transmission system can work. These are all 3D simulated, but the data is collected and then they are made up into one 1D representation, everything collected and simulated and seamlessly connected. You will easily find out the fuel consumption evaluation. It is such a project which is done. Yeah. Well, finally, we have to look at possibilities of parameterizing a system and intelligently coming to an optimized design. It could be geometry, or it could be other parameters like how much fuel has to be injected in what type of pulses in an IC engine. So all these things can be easily simulated, and of course you can kind of finalize a design by doing a lot of simulations that way in an automated sense. Well, whenever you go into a company, of course there is a kind of pathway to you that you can take and grow upon. There is a particular roadmap, and we have been auditing the requirements of so many companies that we are as of today at a stage where we can work with you collaboratively and design a very customized roadmap for you. Where is your beginner stage and where is a intermediate, what is the advanced one, what is world class. So if you can even read through statements here, well, world class, if I have to read it just like that, application focused templates, you're no more working with the step-to-step process. You have a template for yourself. A lot of engineers are using the simulations in different teams, and you integrated with machine learning. So this chart is really just a generic representation, but we always audit the requirements at a particular company and come up with a collaboration plan. Then it would be really specific to that particular customer or company that we work with to lay out a meaningful, mutually agreed roadmap that will really benefit. Yeah, there are a listed group of customers that are actually definitely using the simulations and benefiting a lot from that. Yeah, I must have taken a little ahead of time, but yeah, I think we are open for questions. Thanks for being.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting presentation, Mr. Santosh. I think after a lot of time, at least I was able to understand, go back to my engineering days, understand the concept what you were trying to explain. It was very, very fundamental and very interesting. So there were a couple of questions across. One of the question I think could be, I think I would ask once again, if you can stop sharing the screen, it would be so you can come on. You can just stop sharing the screen.
I guess. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. Yeah. So I think I will ask you, Santosh. I think you spent quite a amount of time talking. So how do you simulate combustion of an automotive fuel, as it is a complex chemical reaction accompanied by fluid mechanics?
Okay. To answer this, yes, we do have both mass transfer and also proper chemical kinetics capability involved in the fluid solver that we are talking about. It would take into account a proper reaction mechanism. Of course, then appropriately we would be using a eddy dissipation concept or a turbulence chemistry that is involved there. So it will be usually a combination of both Arrhenius chemistry and also turbulence driven chemistry to simulate these things. It is possible to consider global reactions which are just a single step or 2 steps ahead, or you can also consider a whole multi-step reaction mechanism as it is. So that way, using a reaction mechanism, basically, that would be really possible to simulate it.
Good. So you're trying to say that yes, you have methods of using these fluid mechanics simulations to get into understanding these points across. Fair enough.
Yes, exactly. Using reaction mechanisms.
Yeah. During your guest stimulation in Industry 1.0 slides, you had mentioned that you can stimulate how the gear mechanism works in the 1.0 slides. So one of the question was related to that. How can we ensure that the simulations or accurate and correctly depict the real situation without going to the physical experiments. People would like to see, okay, if everything can be simulated, or do actually physical impacts are really required or not across. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we assure it through a series of best practices that we have to always follow while doing simulations. We see that first of all, when we get a CAD model, we see that it is properly represented in the simulations using a proper refinement of the mesh. And then it comes to the material modeling. We use a proper material model with which these gears are actually made up of, reflecting that into the simulations as well, and a proper contact nonlinearity model as well. So these fundamental best practices, if they are taken care of and if they are well placed, then yes, simulations can definitely mimic the reality. And we have seen such success working with so many customers. Taking their experimental results.
Is there a way to measure that? Is there a way to measure in terms of accuracy level? What is the percentages across?
Yes, it could be even just within 5% accuracy for the structural simulations. So it really depends upon how much you care about what sort of accuracy you want to get to. Yeah, that way we can give you guidance upon best practices.
Okay, Dr. Madhukar, coming to you. CAD-FAM has looked at PLD, product life cycle design, very across in this. Now, how is it a part of a digital twin, or is it separate from a digital twin in its applications in the product life cycle?
See, I mean, everything right now with the kind of offerings we have can be part of as a digital twin, right? So if a customer is already envisioning any product development in the sense of a digital twin, he has to follow the process what Santosh has shown in the very last slide. Okay, he should start with some basic product development. I mean, in the ideation phase, he has to use, and then he should go on to design and development and manufacturing, and then in operation. So if you see, we are catering to some customers who are already using, let's say, simulations in this advanced product development, which is digital twin. Okay, digital twin product development or simulation for digital twin is a very high-end simulation where the customer has to start the journey from the basics, from the design ideation and to the production and manufacturing. Okay, so you are catering to the customers. We are basically starting in these different levels right to the digital twin product development idea.
Okay, from what I understand from you is you not only look at structural engineering and fluid mechanics and other engineering aspects in materials, but also the product as such. You can create an entire digital model which can
be completely virtually. Okay, there are a lot of these examples you can find where big companies like Volkswagen, for example, has developed 100% electric racing car within 3 weeks without any experiment. Okay, that is just one example. Yeah, so entirely, it's not only structural or fluid or electrical or electronic, complete physics-based engineering involving a lot of these different, let's say, areas.
So, in other words, I mean, a person in auto OEM would be very interested to know this. Like, let's assume if auto OEM in India is looking at building a new car or a prototype, it can right from the materials to the full car, it can go through. Is it through your product, or it has through CAD-FAM product, or it has to use other allied packages to get into this designing activity?
See, so it's ANSYS, as we have showcased in the first 2 slides of our presentation, or for that matter, all these examples you have seen from Santosh or my presentation is revolving around one product, which is the world-class product for all these simulation-driven product development. That is ANSYS. So all our solutions, engineering know-how, and the other services which we offer are around and built around ANSYS.
ANSYS across. Thank you. That is why I think that answers a lot of questions that auto OEM would look at it from CAD-FAM as a service provider. Coming back to you, Mr. Santosh, you talked a lot about multi-body dynamics across, correct? In the beginning, across on the functionalities of it. So, would a MBD solver benefit more from an implicit or explicit method? And how is it possible?
It should be actually an implicit method, because we are not dealing in that case with crash scenarios or events that would occur in a miniature of time. So yes, it would benefit more from an implicit method, and that's how it is designed to be. Yeah,
it is to be across. And coming back to the same, continuing the same basis across, is it possible to simulate various parts like exhaust manifold and various parts of components in the car in this through this process and get the results across on the various physical or physics parameter side?
Yes, it is possible, of course. Yeah, if you're talking about the exhaust manifold, you can take the temperature map and you can see how thermal gradients are actually buckling it or deforming it. Yes.
Okay. Very interesting. You talked of composites in the last. You said that you could do the materials based on composites, including graphene. I think you're also conducting an upcoming seminar.
Yeah.
Is it possible to
yes.
Is it possible to simulate biocomposites?
Yes, it is also possible to simulate biocomposites, but it would be usually a multi-scale approach that you have to take, maybe touching upon certain details of the micro level details in the structure as well. Yeah, but it is possible. Yes, it might take more work. Yeah, it is possible, and it has been done. There are publications on that. Yeah.
Okay, and another interesting application what you showed in the end is on the digital twin of traffic, right? So that would be a very big important requirement for Indian cities today. I'm sure Dr. Madhukar would mention about German, but Indian cities very badly need it in many parts of our cities today. So have you able to talk to any of the smart cities, because at the initial stage it could be really beneficial for them to take it off from the smart city angle across? Is it possible that you can simulate the entire city based on the traffic and how you can streamline the traffic across?
It is possible. Yes, it is logically possible. But currently we are actually in talks or in implementation, I would say, already across Europe, like you said.
Wow.
Already on the sites, they are from European projects. And then across SEA, Southeast Asia, especially in Singapore and Malaysia, we are in talks with the regulatory authorities planning the city construction as well. Yes. So I think we hope and we really aim to bring it soon to the Indian territories as well.
Okay. So finally, I think spend a lot of time across. You want to add something to it, Dr. Madhukar? You are trying to stress on it.
No, I think adding to that, the Smart Cities project, yes, we are also talking with few city officials. As you have seen, was just one example of what traffic simulation Santosh was showing. Okay, so we have a complete workflow developed for the city officials also. Okay, using these high-end simulations for let's say importing the city models, including terrains, doing some let's say security simulations like blast simulations, traffic simulation, crowd simulations. All these solutions are available under one platform using ANSYS solutions. It's just that we need to start implementing with our Indian cities. Yeah, that is what we are currently just in talks with various cities. But we'll have some more examples from the Asian cities maybe in the next. Please watch out our website or updates from us. You'll get more updates there. Yeah, and I think
yes, that was very impressive. Yeah. That's good to know that. I'm sure a lot of the Indian town planning people would be very keen to work with you and understand, and because that's the crux of the matter of Indian today across. Finally, the last question we would like to ask. I would like to ask Mr. Santosh across for this. Mr. Santosh, you talked about assessing the maturity. I think even Dr. Madhukar was emphasizing the beginning of this Q&A session that you are able to audit the organization and try to tell them at what stage they are across. Now, what is the time period you would look at auditing an organization? Is it an auto OEM, or is it a manufacturing organization, or is it a product development team across? Is it all three, or is it separately across?
Okay, well, as I said, it could be diversified. What I showed on the slide is a very generic representation of such a roadmap. So we can indeed
Correct.
work with a auto manufacturer, a OEM, or a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 suppliers as well. So we definitely understand that at all these levels, their priorities would be completely different, and key business initiatives, KBIs, would be completely different. So we can tailor or structure the entire roadmap according to that. And coming to the timelines, of course, our usual interactions would be, I think, for a month. I mean, for a month, we would be continuously engaging with the teams there. And finally, at the end of a month, I think we would come up with a very sensible or meaningful implementation of a roadmap. And usually we have, with our experience, seen that a full-fledged implementation can take 1.5 to 2 years. I mean, I'm talking from beginner level to the world-class level, if I have to talk it that way. Yes.
And I'm sure, I think with products like yours, a lot of organizations in India would get up to world class. And with India now looking at manufacturing world class products to export more, I think your products and solution will be very imperative to them across. I would like to now thank Dr. Madhukar Chaitri and Mr. Santosh Manipalli of CADFM for their excellent presentation. I think it was very insightful. And you have explained the functioning of CAE and FEM very detailed to the automotive and the tier 1, tier 2 associated industries. I would also like to thank all the members and party industry friends who have participated in numbers today. I hope you found this interesting presentation useful and informative across. Friends, India is at a decisive point in its journey towards prosperity, and it's time to make the next steps. The economic crisis sparked by COVID-19 could spur action to return the economy to high track growth and create gainful jobs for the next at least 90 million people by 2030. Letting go of this opportunity would risk a decade of economic stagnation. As the world continues to stop the COVID-19 outbreak, it has become clear that automation technologies like what CADFM is talking today will be needed as humans and machines work together. Its enhanced capabilities help organizations to occupy a place of sustainable importance and prominence, not only reducing costs, but also boosting the growth amid the competitive world. Businesses that prioritize investing in automation will excel and stand stronger in the face of future disruptions. Friends, let us thank CADFM for the interesting presentation, and I also thank you all for participating. Friends, please stay safe, healthy, and make your business resilient and risk tolerant for the future. Thank you very much, and all the best. Have a safe evening, safe days ahead, and great evening. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for your participation. Thanks VDMA for organizing this. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.